quite a while ago, I bought an FM radio kit from Banggood, and it didn't turn out well. There was all sorts of problems with the audio, some real screeching sounds. It was pretty grim. And that must have been well over a year ago. It's in my video list somewhere. But I saw another one on Banggood, and I thought, well, yeah, I'll give that a go. It's another Geekcreit, I think it is, kit that I saw on there, so I thought, well, I'll give it a go. And here it is. It's kind of the same sort of thing, but with some extra bells and whistles, I would say. Typical case, made of acrylic, and that's just the paper covering on it. Don't need that for the moment. Bunch of hardware. Really heavy speaker. Really heavy speaker. I think the listing, I'll try and put the link in the description if I remember, describes it as a sound machine. Well, I'm not sure about that, but this is that's a pretty chunky old speaker. Big old magnet on that one. It's got nothing written on it. I'll just look a little bit closer. So no, I can't see. Well, I presume it's a pretty standard 8-ohm job. Put that there, and of course the bunch of parts, of which there are many. But let's go through this pack and see what we've got. We've got the brains of the old thing, typical STC chips as they call it. There's a socket for it. What's that say? Well, you can probably read that, I think. 89C52RC or whatever. That's the brains of the whole thing. Socket on the back. We have some sort of riser there, and there's the other side of it for connection, no doubt. There's actually a lot here. There's 2 boards. We got some quite nice switches, LEDs, which I don't know if they're multicoloured or single coloured. They look single to me. Yeah, I think they're just single. We shall see eventually if we ever get it working. And we've got a small daughter board here, which has got what on it? Let's have a look. Oh, I thought I got that packet open there. Come on. This is not an unboxing video, for crying out loud. Right, here we go. Ah, right, okay, so that's the main display, digital display. And so that's all populated, all ready to go. We have, why don't I just tip the whole lot out? Never wise with small components, because you're always going to lose some if you're not careful. We have got the main board. Let's have a quick look at that, make sure there's nothing left in the bag. Okay, so it's all through hole. We haven't got any surface mount stuff, and it's quite nicely printed, so you can see the position of all the components. So we have got some surface mount stuff here, but it's all fairly large, so that's easily soldered, no problem. And we can see where all our resistors are. Probably have to get my my component tester out to make sure I've got the right value going in the right place. And now we'll start off with the resistors. What else have we got here? A mixture of LEDs, another little board here, and that's the surface mount one that we saw earlier. A chip and a crystal on there. We have got, is this wires or tube? Yeah, it is wires. We have some wires there, presumably for, I don't know about the power supply, because the power supply comes in the form of this. So 5-volt USB and a decent connector makes a change from micro USB, which these things tend to have. A whole bunch of resistors, no shortage of those, electrolytic caps, buttons with long stems on them to poke through the casing, and yeah, nothing particularly particularly weird and wonderful here. So now we've got some red caps which will go on top of these guys, I would think. Yep. So there, go on there. Might as well do that now while I'm at it. Where's the other one? Sure, oh there it is. I'm looking through the camera whilst I'm doing this. It's all a bit surreal when you do that. Okay, so yeah, so they just pop on there. So that's a pushed proper switch, not push to make. It well, push to make, but not momentary. It's a proper switch. We have got ourselves a little telescopic antenna, only a small one, and that's about all she wrote. So the first thing to do, as always, with these is to sort out the resistors first. And yep, they're all resistors. So let's find all the resistors. I will need to check the values. I cannot read resistor codes because I don't do this often enough to remember them. People who are playing with electronics all the time, particularly those doing so professionally, which is not me at all, will remember resistor codes, but I won't. There's the plug for the power input. So let's we don't need all of this for the moment. Let's push that. Oh, keep resistors. Push that all to one side. Put the display to one side and the main chip and all this lovely hardware. It's a nice enough kit. I don't think this was particularly expensive. It was less than £10, and I always think kits like this, provided they work, to be very, very good value. As I say, £10 for all of this, and I think shipping was next to nothing. Is absolutely great. I have got another thing coming from Banggood, which I will share with you, which I'm quite excited about, because I was talking about radios in my last video. I think it was the last video, and I mentioned software-defined radio, which is SDR radio, which you can find loads about on YouTube, but I wanted to get into it. I wanted to understand a bit more about it and how it works. So I have done a couple of things. I've got one SDR already, which I'll show you in another video, and I've got another one coming. So with all of that, let's sort out these resistors. I think it's fair to say that this device is probably one of the better purchases I ever made on Banggood. It's a component tester, and it will tell you the value of a component, a resistor, or it will tell you capacitor values, and also it will measure transistors, tell you what type of transistor it is, which leg is the base collector or emitter, and that sort of stuff. So let's try this, testing a resistor, and it tells me that this one is an unknown part. Oh, I think I know why, because I have got it on number 1 for both legs, which is silly. So let me do it on 1 and 3. See if that works. Is that in properly? Again, I'm looking through the cameras. It's never a good idea. Well, let's try again. Right. Takes a little while to test. Not the fastest thing in the world. And there we go. Resistor, 10 ohms. That's a 10 ohm resistor. So, as I say, if you don't know your colour codes, or you're not willing to learn them, which I'm not, I should, but I'm not. Let's try another one. Let's try this one. Oop. And that is giving me 2 values. And it's giving me a value on 1, 2, and 3. Is that a resistor, or is that... That doesn't seem... Let's try that again. That's very strange. I noticed here that these pads have gone a bit iffy over time, and I think I need to clean those up. I think that's for dropping a... Well, I think you can probably just hold a component onto it. But this one doesn't seem to want to play, which is very odd. Why is it doing? Is it an inductor? That's not going to work, is it, if I do it like that? Very strange. No, because it's all in two. So if I do it diagonally, perhaps, that will give me positions 1 and 2 then. This has got nothing to do with building this radio, so you're probably getting very bored, but don't worry, I'll move on in a minute. There we go, that's better. So that's a 6.8 ohm. Well, actually it's 6K, isn't it? 7K. I don't know if they've actually put the values, because as always, there's no instruction, there's no circuit diagram, but they have got the values of the components. So you got there you go, 6.8K. So that's that one at R12. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to measure these resistors to make sure I put the right one in the right place, and then I shall solder them all in. Okay, so I've made a good bit of progress on this FM radio, and I've actually populated a lot more than just the resistors. In fact, I've basically done the whole lot. It's all fairly straightforward, to be brutally honest. Obviously, you've got to make sure you understand the polarity of certain components, such as the electrolytic capacitors and the LEDs, and you can see you've got a plus symbol there and a minus symbol there on the LED. The long lead is the plus side and the short lead is the negative. Similar situation on the capacitors. You'll see you'll see a bit of a hatched area, like you can see there on all of these capacitors. That'll be the there you go, you can see it there, the hatched area. That'll be the negative side, so you can see there negative, and all those electrolytic capacitors, the same principle. This one's had to be bent down because we've got the main chip which will sit on there, and we've got these components that are right underneath the chip, including the main crystal, a couple of 22 picofarad ceramic caps, and a lot of 10K resistors on this this device. Now, the one thing to keep an eye out for is these two guys, that one and that one. And these, I had to look it up, are linear ICs, and they are there to drive the LEDs. Now, you'll notice, let's see if I can get a little bit close here. If we can, you'll notice that the IC has a bit of slope on that end, and that denotes which end you have to solder it on. And you can see there it slopes down as opposed to being square at the end there. It's, if I can get the other side, it might be a bit easier to see. Yeah, possibly a little bit easier to see there. You can see how it slopes down there. So that slope indicates it needs to go on these two end pins here. So slope that side, slope that side. So you have to keep an eye out for that. We've got some risers here for the LED, well, I say that the display board. These are actually all in one piece, but you can snap each of these off. And it was actually a bit longer than it needed to be, so in my case, I had to snap off 3 pins. So get rid of that, just to make it the right length. What else? This board here, this little board here, note the orientation. The silk screen will show that little can there, which is, I guess, another crystal, and the chip there, so you'll get the orientation. Best thing to do is just to solder one of them, and then gently heat that up and make sure you got it positioned in line with each of the pads, and then just drop a blob of solder on each. It solders very smoothly, no problems at all. 104 caps, there, and there, and I don't think there's anything else to really get excited about. It's all pretty straightforward. Apart from that, it's all through hole. You can see that the chips, the LM386N1, is also socketed, as well as the main chip, which is this guy here, which I will install in a minute. Interestingly enough, you've got all the switches on the front here. They're all very, very straightforward. Just plug them in and solder them up. No great shakes there. Incidentally, if you're following this board and the position of the resistors, I did get some resistors in the wrong place and I had to desolder them and reposition them. So before you get to the end of this video, don't start soldering up your own kit following this along. Just let me make sure I can test and make sure it's all working, and then we can have I'll give you a nice still shot of the board like this and you can see the completed version. But hopefully that's it there. If it's not, then I'll do this again, but you can see all the different color codes for each of the resistors there. I had to do a bit of surgery on this guy. I think the problem was it's gotten a bit dirty over time, and I don't know, perhaps it was creating a bit of capacitance on the board. There's a hole here which was to access those pads down there for the testing. I never use those, so I just put a bit of tape over it to stop dirt and crap going in there, and it's now reading fine. So if you've got one of these, it's worth giving a good old clean of these contacts occasionally with, I don't know, isopropyl alcohol, you know what I mean, and also clean up the board. Also make sure your battery's okay. This one is. So yeah, there's some components left over. Riser there, we've got a spare switch. What else have we got? We've got a couple of spare LEDs, which is good if they turn out to be duff. Spare 22 puff, and I've also got a spare LM. I'm holding this and I'm probably frying it. I'm not sure how electrostatic sensitive these things are. Another 0.47 microfarad capacitor. All these little caps on here, they're all the same value, 0.47, so that makes life easier. They're all 0.47 and the two bigger ones are 100 microfarad. Is that 0.47? Yeah, that is as well. That's the only one you have to bend down because obviously you've got to get the chip on top of it. Also make note, of course, with the sockets to make sure that the notch in the socket matches up with the notch on the board, as you can see there. And when you install your chip, again, the notch will go in that location on the same end, and it's the same deal with the LM386 there. Nothing else to say. Everything else is straightforward enough. The power jack, nothing to write home about there. All very straightforward. So I assume I haven't fried the chips as I've been mucking about with it and trying to solder it all up. Hopefully it's all good to go. So let's get the main chip in there and see what happens. Oh, I forgot to tell you a little bit about the display. All you've got to do with the display is to solder this connector on. Make sure you get it nice and square. This comes in the right length, unlike the pins that it's going to attach to, which is these guys. And yeah, that just clips, or plugs rather. Looking at this through the camera, not a good idea. It's all out of focus now. Is that right? Yeah, so that clips on, plugs in rather there. I say make it square, that doesn't look very square to me. Well, perhaps it is. You can see it's flapping in a breeze a bit there, but there's a hole there and obviously holes there and there. Each corner, I reckon what we do is that we stick some of these brass stand-ups, or whatever you call them, in the each corner to secure the display in place. But in the meantime, all I want to do is see if there's any life in this thing. I haven't got the speaker connected. I haven't got the antenna connected. Now I know that the antenna goes here, but before I commit to bolting or don't really bolt that on or solder it on. Any rate, before I do that, I want to see how the case puts together. What I don't want to do is, particularly if I solder this on, find that I've got it in the wrong position and, you know, I have to desolder it just to get the case to fit. I'll hook up the speaker with these two wires. We've got a couple of, just a short length of speaker wire here. So we'll worry about that in a minute. All I want to do at the moment is to see if this has got any signs of life. So, using the supplied cable into a 5-volt USB power supply, which I have here, let's plug it in. Nothing there, but I don't know what all of these buttons do. No idea yet. There is some instructions on the Banggood page, so again I'll try and remember to put the link up there. No, there. Oh, there we go. Stereo radio, FM 87.8. So that's obviously, I presume, the lowest frequency it goes down to. What does this do if I press it? Well, that does the volume. What does this one? That's so volume up, volume down. I presume this is going to be frequency up and down, is it? Yeah. Ooh. Well, that jumped rather a lot. What if I press and hold? Oh, that might be scanning there, because 92.9 is the BBC Radio 4 in the UK. So I reckon that was scanning. I think that's scanning. Bearing in mind it hasn't got an antenna on at the moment. So that will be screwing it all up. At any rate, we have signs of life. That's the main thing. Nothing here on the LEDs though. Unplug it and plug it back in again. Switch it off. Yeah, nothing on the LEDs at the moment. I actually have got now I know I haven't got the speaker connected just yet. But I do have a long wire antenna, an external long wire antenna. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, this will certainly pick up pretty much anything. So I'm just going to touch it on there, switch it on, and see what happens. There's a lot of glare on this. Let's see if I can move some of this out of the way. That's better. You can see that now. So again, that's volume 92.9, 96.1, 98. I think this is finding stations. Is that up and down? Yeah, it looks like this is scan up and down. And this is volume up and down. What's this one do then? Oh! LEDs. Well, we all like LEDs, don't we? I don't exactly know what these LEDs are trying to do, but they're all lit. And those LEDs are multicoloured. I don't know if it would be better if I get the lights off, or whether that looks overexposed on the video. It looks a bit overexposed to me. Perhaps it would be better off with more light. No, that's just going to make it worse. Just needs to be a bit further away from the camera, I expect. Anyway, well, okay, so that's what that button does. That switches on the LEDs, or switches them off again. which is actually not a bad thing, because if you find the LEDs distracting, then that's a good thing. You can just turn them off. So power on, volume up and down, tune up and down. That display is really nice as well. It's bright, it's sharp. I've had other things I've made with using these displays, and they're great. These are really nice displays, and they've got really bright backlights on them. So so far so good. What I need to do now is sort out the antenna, the speaker and the case, and it's complete. Here we go, the FM radio from Banggood. Bit of a krypton factor to try and get the case together, but worked it out eventually with the help of photographs on the listing on Banggood. And yeah, it's all there. Speaker's a bit exposed, unfortunately, but could do a little mesh cover or something to protect it. The antenna, there's a tiny hole in the antenna. It's threaded, but there was no screw supplied, so I've had to use a fair old amount of let's see if I can get that in focus. I've had to use a fair old amount of solder, as you can see there, to hold it in there. The hinge is very, very stiff, so you need a really solid blob of solder on there. The other thing is that the main board had a bit of extra board on it, which I just broke off. It was actually already scored, so it just snapped off. Otherwise you're not going to be able to get the case together with that on there. So that's that. Anything else to really... Oh yeah, the speaker wires, as you can see, I've soldered them through the top of the board. That was a mistake. I should have done it underneath. So you can see the rather unsatisfactory routing of the speaker cable there, squeezed in between the case and the board to get it back up to the top. But once I'd got all the top pieces together, I didn't really fancy unsoldering it, so there we go. I did it that way, but that's fine. So I've not tried it with the antenna on yet, so let's power it up and see what she sounds like. So there's the power supply in there. That's the power button. Okay, so let's bring the antenna up, fully extend it. It's not a particularly long antenna, so let's hit the tuning buttons. Oh no, that's the volume. Hang on a minute. It's actually quite loud when it was hissing, so I'm guessing it's going to be fairly loud when we get a station. But if there's any music, I'm going to cut it short.
Send it back to us. It's all 100% guaranteed.
Ooh, see how loud that is. Let's go back down again.
We'll pay you by same-day transfer. So visit textgold.co.uk or get the ball rolling now by texting gold to 822.
There's a slight...
118212. Calls cost £2.50 per call plus 75p a minute with a minimum 1 minute charge plus your phone company's...
Your phone, it's all right, but...
Doesn't it? Anyway, looking forward to another fab week.
Bit crackly.
And love to new friends. That's Hayley and Nick. Sorry.
Anyone in my life. I remember that was the best times.
Let's bring the volume down.
Absolutely fantastic to meet you. Thank you very much indeed. Guys, what did you
That's the lowest volume, and even that's quite loud.
That he can't progress.
There's a slight hum, a slight buzz underneath. It might be that it needs a really, really, really strong signal to get it clean.
20 years later,
But it's not bad. I don't think I can leave it on music, otherwise I'll get into trouble.
He'd be in his late 20s by now. One of hundreds of
I don't know if you can
thousands of
hear.
orphans
His prospects are looking bleak.
There's a bit of a hum and a bit of a
Jeremy Ball reporting.
a bit of a hiss, and I can't see. To say, it might just be the signal strength, and it needs a lot of signal for it to. Let's turn that off. Well, I'll tell you what I'll do is let's put the volume. Actually, there you go. I don't know if you can hear that, but there is a little bit of hum there, and that's the volume on 0, and yet it's still giving out that hum. I don't know if there's anything you can do about that. There's possibly a little filter capacitor or something, I don't know. Okay, LEDs. Switch those on. Nothing. Perhaps it needs volume. Let's find a station.
To the red, amber,
there you go.
green list, the traffic light system that the government has in place. Those who'd supported it suggested it could be a way of giving people more information about which countries were potentially facing further restrictions before too long. But as you say, there was a backlash from conservative
that's all red
MPs,
LEDs, but I don't know.
Who just saw this as
I don't know. I don't know what the meaning of the colours of the LEDs are. No. So it flashes to the music. As I say, I can't leave music on because I think the YouTube algorithm picks up music and kicks you in the bum for playing it. But
A mix of school friends and
yeah. Right, let's switch that off. Otherwise, I'm gonna get too much music playing there. But there you go. You can see it. It works fairly well. If you switch it on, it always defaults back. Or does it stay? Let's try again. Right. Okay. Let's switch it back on again. See if it saves the last frequency. No, it doesn't. It goes to 88.5. I don't know if it can. And it also, I think it resets the volume as well. So let's switch that off. On volume 4, 88.5. Switch back on again. Volume 8, 88.5. So it doesn't store the last frequency or your last volume setting. But overall, that is a usable little radio. Oops. Down. Let's turn the volume down. But you can definitely hear that hum, which is obviously some sort of signal coming from somewhere. Unless I've got a component in the wrong place, which is causing the problem, I don't know. But at any rate, there she is. FM radio, self-tuning or scanning from Banggood. Love these displays. I always think they're great. Very bright, very, very clear to read. It's a nice, rich blue colour to them. And quite a few components left over as well. Look at that lot. All of these bits of hardware, and there's a chip and all sorts of other things. So that'll go in my tin of goodies of spare parts. So there you go. That's another kit complete. Hope you enjoyed that. I have got another kit which is one I've done before, but I like them so much I bought another one. But we'll come on to that again next time. And I've got another little toy that I got from Banggood, which I'll show you, which is also radio related. I think I mentioned it in my last video. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed that. Let's switch that off. I'll put that there, and we'll see you next time. Cheers for now.